Welcome to Colorado Springs Hypnosis, your resource for hypnosis and hypnotic things. My name is Charles, I'm a hypnotist, and today I want to talk to you about hypnosis in movies, and more specifically, the myths that some of those movies may have brought about. Anyways, so I hope you do enjoy this video. Please do take a moment to like, subscribe, and of course, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment once we're done. So the first movie that I'd like to talk about is one of my favorites, and it is called Office Space. Now, in this movie, the lead character, Peter, goes to see a hypnotist because he's really stressed out from work, and the hypnotist starts to hypnotize him and really just starts to give him suggestions about being able to relax and things like that. And then the hypnotist has a heart attack and they die. And basically what happens is Peter gets stuck in hypnosis. He no longer cares about his job or really anything for that matter, and it completely changes his life. And even though it does kind of paint hypnosis almost in a positive light, there are a few things that are wrong with this. So let's go ahead and check this out real quick.
I want you to relax every muscle in your body, beginning with your toes to your fingertips. Now I want you to relax your legs. You're beginning to feel your eyelids getting heavy as you slip deeper and deeper into a state of complete relaxation. All your cares and concerns are disappearing. Deeper and deeper, way down. Your concern about your job melts away. Way down. Now when I count backwards from 3, you will be in a state of complete relaxation. Your worries, cares, and inhibitions will be gone. And you will remain in that state until I snap my fingers. 3, deeper and deeper. Way down. 2, deeper and deeper. Way down. 1.
Oh my God, Dr. Swanson! Ooh. Is he breathing?
Call 911.
Oh.
Wow, kind of a crazy scene, huh? So here's the thing. For starters, they were only like, 1 or 2 minutes into a hypnotic induction. So if the hypnotist had a heart attack at that point, Peter pretty much would have just snapped right out of it because really he wouldn't have been all the way in a trance. But even if he was all the way in a trance and he was all by himself and the hypnotist did have a heart attack, if he didn't wake up right there, he would have woken up in the few minutes after some silence happened. He started wondering what was going on. All right, the other thing about it is it's very unlikely that it would completely change his whole personality. Now, don't get me wrong, we see people all the time for things like stress and anxiety and all sorts of problems, and you can definitely get rid of those little problems, but 99.9% of your personality stays the same. So it's very unlikely that it would have happened that way. The next one I want to talk about actually doesn't even come from a movie, it comes from the TV show Gotham. And if you haven't seen Gotham yet, it is actually a very entertaining show. It's like the precursor to Batman and all that stuff. In this episode, called Spirit of the Goat, there's a doctor named Dr. Marks, and I believe she's a psychiatrist or psychologist, something like that. But what she's doing is she's actually hypnotizing people to go murder rich people within Gotham City. So let's go ahead and check that out for a minute.
Why? Why hypnotize a janitor and turn him into the goat?
You wouldn't understand.
Try me.
It isn't an act of murder or madness, it's an act of therapy.
It's true what they say. You can't really hypnotize somebody to do something that deep down they don't already want to do. And deep down, we all want to eat the rich.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot hypnotize somebody to do something they don't want to do. I tell my clients all the time, do you actually want to quit smoking? Because if you don't, I can't help you. And obviously the same thing would happen with a lot of different instances. But here we're not talking about just whether somebody feels like doing or something doesn't feel like doing something. Here we're talking about something a little bit deeper, dipping into people's morals and values and beliefs. So even though maybe in a city like Gotham where everybody does hate the rich, it's very unlikely that you could take somebody that wouldn't normally want to kill people and could hypnotize them to kill people. That's completely unrealistic. And while we're on this topic, I'd also like to take a minute to talk about ethics. And this is not just with hypnotists. This could be with your psychiatrist, your psychologist, your family counselor, your teachers, like anyone that you have a professional relationship with, especially in any sort of medical or wellness field, or somebody holds some sort of stature. Like, they shouldn't be taking advantage of people like that at all. And don't get me wrong, like, don't wait until your psychiatrist says, hey, you should go kill people before you report it. If you find that whoever you're working with, whether they're a hypnotist, psychiatrist, psychologist, doctor, whatever, if they're doing something unethical, the only way that you can stop them from doing that is to report them. So on that note, if that had been a real situation, I'd like to think that somewhere along the line she would have tried to have hypnotized somebody to kill someone, and they would have been like, no, I don't want to do that, and they should have reported to the authorities, and that just never happened. So the next movie I want to talk about is Get Out. Now in Get Out, it was a really crazy concept. You know, they're using hypnosis to trap people in their mind, and then they come with this medical procedure and put other people's consciousness into people's mind. Just a very wacky, like, far-fetched movie, but still very entertaining. Let's go ahead and check out how the hypnotist in this movie does her work.
How do you feel now?
I can't move.
You can't move.
Why can't I move?
You're paralyzed. Just like that day when you did nothing. You did nothing. Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink. Now you're in the sunken place.
All right, so there we are. There's this lady. She's getting this young man to get into his own feelings and start feeling those feelings, start visualizing, which is something that hypnotists do. We do work with a lot of visualizations. We get people to go back and look at feelings again or experience them again. So some of those aspects are actually kind of realistic. You know, she was doing the thing with her teacup, you know, stirring her teacup, and while that's not necessarily the route that I'd like to go, some hypnotists do like to use an item of some sort to actually get someone to get their attention on one item. So, I guess maybe. But then there was the part she was like, sink through the floor! Sink now! So that part there was very unrealistic. Now don't get me wrong, I've had some people say, oh yeah, you know, I felt so heavy, I felt like I was sinking and things like that. But the whole thing where you sink through the floor and you get stuck inside your mind, like, that is it's really quite a misrepresentation. I've never felt like that. I've been hypnotized at least hundreds of times, if not, you know, perhaps more than 1,000, and none of my clients have ever said anything like that. But what I will say is that it is a very interesting concept, and it's probably part of the reason that, you know, that people fear hypnosis because of movies like this and specifically this movie. But this does bring up a couple of hypnosis myths. First one, hypnosis is not mind control. You cannot trap someone in their mind, right? And then 2, what were we talking about earlier? You can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. Well, if I was to hypnotize you and be like, oh, I'm going to trap you in your mind now so I can give your body to someone else, I don't think that would be along with your beliefs and values and morals, so there's a good chance that it probably would not work. Next, let's talk about Aladdin, specifically Disney's Aladdin, the cartoon. And in this movie, Jafar's got his snake staff that he's using. He hypnotizes the king or the emperor, and then he turns around and hypnotizes Jasmine later. go ahead and check out this clip and get an idea of what we're talking about.
I thought the law says that only a prince can marry a princess. I'm quite sure
Desperate times call for desperate measures, my lord.
Desperate measures.
You will order the princess to marry me.
I will order the princess to... But you're so old.
The princess will marry me.
Princess will marry...
So again, we have someone using an item, the snake staff with the magical eyes, and that's what's hypnotizing the Sultan, right? And you'll also notice that he has a very authoritarian approach. You know, you will have me marry the princess. You will do this. You will do that. And you know what? Like, there's a lot of validity to that style, because in earlier hypnosis, especially, you know, before it started getting more popular in the 70s with NLP and Milton Erickson and all that stuff, when you did see hypnotists, they did do that, and they would kind of very theatrically, you know, order people to do things and tell them, oh, and this is going to get better and that's going to get better and you're under my spell. In fact, it's something that we saw all the way back in, I don't know when it was made, maybe the 20s or 30s. The Dracula movie was even very similar to that. So the problem with that is part of the reason that hypnosis was a little more hit and miss all the way back then was because of that authoritarian approach. And some people just don't like to be bossed around. So, you know, if you were to come into my office and I was to say, shut your eyes, go into a trance now. Well, you know, perhaps that might work with 1 in 10 people, but the rest of the people would just be like, what are you doing? Like, this is kind of crazy. So that's why it's not extremely realistic. However, it does kind of showcase some of the older mindsets behind hypnosis. Last one I want to talk about is one of my favorite old movies from childhood, Star Wars. Now, I know in Star Wars that they're using the Force, they're Jedis, they're absolutely not hypnotists at all, but go ahead and check out Obi-Wan here in this quick clip.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along.
That's right. Notice that hypnotic hand wave that Obi-Wan has. These are not the droids you're looking for. Notice the way he kind of drops his voice down into that hypnotic voice that we all think about when we think about hypnotists. So even though the Jedi and, you know, the franchise of Star Wars never came out and said, hey, these guys are doing hypnosis, they certainly took from some of those aspects to make it look what they considered to be more realistic at the time. And then we turn around later and we see Luke Skywalker dealing with Jabba the Hutt. So go ahead and check this out.
You will bring Captain Solo and the Wookiee to me.
So did you see that? The very first thing, the very beginning of the clip, Jabba says, you weak-minded fool or person or whatever, you weak-minded individual, how could you be falling for these tricks? And then he says, Luke, your mind tricks are no good for me. Again, we're not talking about hypnosis, we're talking about Jedis. However, they do look similar, which I believe is where part of the myth of only weak-minded people can become hypnotized. That is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was somewhat entertaining and hopefully informational as well. So please, again, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to hear any questions you have, any videos you'd potentially like to see. So feel free to do that. And if not, just have an awesome day. All right, goodbye.